Okay, we'll go ahead and get started, knowing that others might trickle in, but this way we have more than enough time to get through our session today and allow time for questions. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shay Maresco. I'm the Assistant Director of Enrollment Management here in the School of Medicine at Case Western Reserve University. Joined today by Dr. Tracey Bonfield, who is the Program Director of the Regenerative Medicine and Entrepreneurship Program, as well as our content expert today on our topic of utilizing AI in stem cell research. So speaking of questions, should you have any during the session, feel free to utilize the chat feature to post those questions throughout the session, and then we'll have time at the end devoted to answering questions. So without further ado, let's get into today's session. So I covered introductions, but I will let Dr. Bonfield say hi, and she's going to kind of take it away from here, or take it away, yeah, that was right, from here with covering the topic today.
Yes, welcome everybody. I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm actually very supercharged to share the perspective of using artificial intelligence in creating and applying it to the regenerative medicine field. But first, let me talk a little bit about NCRM and other components of our programming here at Case Western Reserve. So I'm going to give you an introduction. Here we go. So Case Western Reserve School of Medicine is 16th in the nation, and it's #1 in Ohio. And some of that has a lot to do with our infrastructure here in Cleveland, where we have the amazing Cleveland Clinic Foundation, university hospitals, Metro Health System, a VA system, all within really very easy travel distances, which really enhance our capacity to do this type of science. So the foundation of regenerative medicine comes from this National Center for Regenerative Medicine, which is really the brainchild of our dean, Dean Gerson. And really what it is it's a platform to facilitate translational research, clinical applications, and commercialization of regenerative medicine, tissue engineering, and stem cell therapeutics. And we've done a lot of the primary clinical trials here within the greater Cleveland area that have focused on these initiatives. And we are now partnered with the universities in other hospitals that are here. As you can see here, the co-directors of NCRM from university hospitals is Dr. Van Mason, from the Cleveland Clinic is Dr. Tim Chan, and from Metro Health is Dr. Tsi. So let's talk about artificial intelligence and stem cell research and how it is helping to shape the future of this particular field. When we think of artificial intelligence, it's a matter of creating computer systems that perform tasks needing what we think about as human intelligence, like learning and problem solving and decision making and analyzing data, and helps us to recognize patterns and help us to self-correct. And a lot of this information is based upon literature that's already out there, and also based upon how you might want to program it for the analysis. So the power of it is that we get to sort of stand on the shoulders of our giants, right, who have sort of pursued this field, utilize some of that information, and begin to apply it live time. So let me go over that a little bit.
One moment. That would be not the right slide deck.
And this is called going with the flow.
All right, now we're in business.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
We can use it for optimizing stem cell research by accelerating discovery and improving therapies. We can provide predictive modeling, so we can use it to help us predict the direction of our research so that we save time and energy. We can also use it for optimization and cell differentiation and uses of it clinically. We can automate quality control via image analysis using what we call deep learning, which can improve clinical outcomes. So the quality control is essential for the translational piece, right? We have to make sure that the quality of the products that we're pushing forward are going to be translatable and safe for patients. We can also use this to optimize drug discovery and analyze large genomic data sets to understand diseases. So let me outline some of this as we approach testing toxicity using stem cells using artificial intelligence. So what we all know is that we are sensitive to our environment, and we all have that unique capacity as we're interacting with our environment. So some people have allergies, some people do not. Some people are sensitive to smoke and exhaust, and some people are not. Some people are sensitive to this drug, and some people are sensitive to that drug, or even food particles. You can be an allergy sensitive person. What we can do is use artificial intelligence to begin to understand some of those concepts, to better understand one response, but also how to improve outcomes of disease. So here's a great paper in which they're making stem cells and expose it to chemicals to see how it impacts and ability to become different tissues. So what does that really mean? So when we're in our environment and we hear about things that can change capacity to differentiate, well, differentiation is not just a matter of development in embryology, but is also the capacity to heal, the capacity to respond to the environment. And how is that really going to outcome in terms of measures of treatment of specific diseases? So we can utilize AI to learn about how a stem cell responds to our environment and how it is going to interact with that exposure. We can use patient-specific cells. We can actually use it for drug specificity. Does this patient actually going to respond appropriately to that drug? Or, can that patient, be determined in terms of their profile for allergic responses? Can we understand what that means? So we can use stem cells and expose them to chemicals to see how it impacts the ability to become different tissues. We can use them from patients and learn how different treatments improve disease and create different tissues. So how is this related to our programming and the research and clinical initiatives here at Case Western and the National Center for Regenerative Medicine? Well, artificial intelligence is used to improve mesenchymal stem cell products for therapeutic applications. It's used to optimize therapeutic development in cancer and understanding cancer response to different treatment motifs. It's also used to predict targets for future therapeutic development by doing modeling and drug modeling. And it's used to understand genetics of disease pathology and progression. So this the epigenetic response to our environment. How does that change our genes and as they're expressing? And what does that mean in terms of disease presentation or etiology? So here are some of the great papers that some of this information can be found in. These are different applications of using them for responsiveness to airway stem cells in the first one. And then the second one is learning how to supercharge induced pluripotent stem cells to begin to understand what those cells can do in that environment. And iPS cells can be taken from patients, so that really gives us a lot of power in terms of understanding responsiveness to treatments, motifs, drugs, etc. So if, the concept of artificial intelligence sort of feeds into this slide of this upward movement of regenerative medicine. The market is expected to be 194 billion by 2032, up 34.6 billion from 2022. It's a growing need. There's a lot of rise in chronic diseases such as cancer, diabetes, heart disease. The need and demand for regenerative medicine continues to increase. If we think about our aging population, changes in the demographics of cancer, all of those types of things, regenerative medicine can help intervene. There's emerging markets, for interest and development of regenerative medicine across the globe. So it's not just here in the United States. And it very much encompasses not just the concept of regenerative medicine as the science, but also the concept of taking the products from the science through the bench to commercialization to clinical impact, and all the pieces along the way. And what's really required is a workforce of passionate individuals like yourself that maybe want to contribute in some form to the regenerative medicine field. So the program that we've had developed here on the Masters of Science in Regenerative Medicine and Entrepreneurship at CASE is a 1.5 to 2 year program. I've had people do it in 1 year. I've had people do it in a year and a half, and I've had people take a little longer. It can be very accommodating based upon what your needs are. It's highly customizable through your career goals, through selective course selection. Majority of the classes are your electives that you get to choose with guidance of mentors. And the idea isn't just to choose electives. The idea is to choose these electives to inform where you want your master's to take. And it's your capacity to sort of define what that passion is going to be. And I think that's really the fun of this particular master's program, because it really provides students a lot of input in their directive and what their outcome is going to be in terms of taking the regenerative medicine focal point. Students can see regenerative medicine practices in action throughout site visit experiences in our courses, different biotech companies. They get exposure to content experts from around the nation and world, really, is in lecture capacity, but also in virtual components and some visitations in local sites. You can also learn micro-credentials. You can earn these through our law school and Weatherhead School of Management. This is embedded within our GME, providing you a certificate in that regenerative medicine and the entrepreneurship, legalistic components, commercialization, intellectual property, essential pieces for innovation in this particular field of focus. So I'll let Che talk a little bit more about applying to the program and what that actually looks like, and I'm happy to address any questions.
Sure, thank you. So, should you be interested in applying to the program, we are currently accepting applications for a fall 2026 start. Those applications will remain open through August 1st. We do offer a spring start as well. At this point, we're into the spring semester, but should you be looking at the program for a little bit further down the road and you're interested in the spring start, applications open up in the summer, and spring applications will need to be received by December 1st, just so that we're able to get you a admission decision ahead of the holiday break. So how do you apply to the program? It is pretty simple. First, you will create an account through the CWRU application portal, which can be found on our website. Within that portal, of course, you'll answer some basic demographic questions like name, faith, all that good stuff. But in addition to those basic forms that you'll fill out, you will upload a statement of purpose. So we say this is really a chance to share more about you, why you want to join the program, and kind of what you hope to do post-graduation should you be accepted to the program. We also request a copy of your most recent resume or CV, and transcripts from any and all colleges and universities attended. So what do we mean by that? Say you took one course during the summer at a community college, but it counted towards your undergraduate degree. We will want a transcript for that course. Unofficial transcripts are perfectly fine for the purposes of applying. Should you be accepted and choose to join us in the program, that's when official transcripts will need to be provided to Case Western Reserve. Lastly, we require 2 letters of recommendation, at least 2. Some folks choose to submit more than 2 letters of recommendation, but the minimum is 2. And what we mean by professional references is this needs to be someone that can speak to you either as a professional or as a student, depending on where you are at in your career trajectory. So examples would be a supervisor, an academic advisor, a professor, individuals like that. And then the TOEFL or IELTS is required for most international candidates. The exceptions that apply are if you either obtained your undergraduate degree in the United States or at an institution where English was the primary language of instruction, or if English is the primary language of your home country. So those would be the exceptions to the TOEFL or IELTS. So as I was mentioning, we do have a spring start, so submit by December 1st. International candidates, we recommend that you submit no later than April 15th. You certainly can, but why we recommend April 15th is it allows you time should you need to get a visa processed. We've had students experiencing delays in that recently, so April 15th we're hoping would provide you with enough cushion. And then our very final deadline for a fall start is August 1st. This last screen here, if you have any questions, feel free to email us at rgme@case.edu. That's our website up there. And then lastly, LinkedIn. If you are on LinkedIn, we recommend following that page as we share news stories. So if you enjoyed today's session on AI and how that relates to regenerative medicine, as we find modern applications of regenerative medicine in organically in the news cycle, we will share them to our LinkedIn, as well as any application deadlines or upcoming events. So with that, we will pause talking for a little bit, and we're happy to answer any questions. Feel free to pop them into the Q&A down at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, I use AI in my own work. Actually, I work on mesenchymal stem cells. And so I use AI as a component to understand mesenchymal stem cell phenotype and function. So you can use AI as a very powerful tool to learn about what other people have done and incorporate that. Like I said, kind of standing on the shoulders of other people who have done a lot of hard work. And no sense in reinventing the wheel or spending time and resources to redo something that's already been established. I'm excited to talk about this.
You are welcome. Someone just said thank you in the chat. Thank you for joining us today. No question too big or too small. But if we have no questions, do want to just remind everyone that a recording of today's session will be going out within 24 hours. So check your email for that. Someone else just saying thank you. You are welcome. And of course, if a question pops up as you are reviewing the recording or just later today, next week, whatever, feel free to reach out anytime. We're happy to connect with you and discuss the program, discuss AI and regenerative medicine. And we do aim to have these sessions, the regenerative medicine in the news sessions, every other month. So be sure to check our website if you enjoyed today's and want to join us again to learn about another topic. We'd love to have you join us. We do have one question in the chat. I had a question about the timeline of the RGME application. If an application for fall admission is submitted earlier in the year, would it be reviewed earlier, and would admission decision be made sooner? Yes. So, yeah, we strive to review applications as they come in and get you an admission decision within a couple of weeks. One piece that I should have added to the slide is we do require an informal interview. And what we mean by that is it's really more of a conversation, and it can occur either before or after you submit your application. You'll just meet with myself and Dr. Bonfield, and we'll just talk through more details of the program. It gives you a chance to ask questions one-on-one and just a chance to get to know each other, make sure that the program is going to be a mutual fit. So once that occurs, again, that can occur before you submit your application, and that will count. Or if you submit and we haven't met with you yet, we'll reach out. But usually within about 2 weeks, once that interview component is fulfilled. You're welcome. Any other questions? We have plenty of time.
I really enjoy the informal sort of discussion with applicants. I mean, I think it's great to hear the passion behind, their interest in the programming and, why it suits their direction, and also really informs a lot in terms of, the directions that we can give them here, the connections. I think part of that's part of RGME, and that is, giving students sort of a pathway forward and connecting them with the right people to inspire them to accomplish what they're here to accomplish.
All righty. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions come through, so I just want to thank you all again for joining us today. We hope you were able to learn something and enjoyed today's session. We'd love to have you back at a future session, and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Have a great rest of the afternoon. Bye.
Oh, hold on. One more question in the chat. As an undergraduate student that is conducting their own research thesis on regenerative medicine, what advice would the speakers have for a prospective RGME student in terms of pursuing a career in stem cell research? Dr. Bonfield, I'm going to let you take that one.
Yeah, so I think it depends on sort of the goals of the student, right? If you're an undergraduate student and you're working in the field of regenerative medicine, if you're an engineering student, or you're more in the biologic part of it, or maybe you're more in the business or the commercialization piece of it, whichever that forum is, usually students have an idea of what they want to do, when they're done with the master's. And a lot of people come in, they want to go to medical school, which is great. We certainly help them in that process to get them to that goal, or graduate school if they want to do a PhD. But there's so many other type of positions that and opportunities and career choices that the field provides. Part of my goal is to expose students to these opportunities and let students find their niche. And when you find your niche that inspires you, you're going to be very happy. And whatever that niche is, I think that's where you want to drive your future. And we're here to help you in that process. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I think as an undergraduate, that's important, because when you're an undergraduate, you don't have a lot of flexibility in your curriculum, right? There isn't as many electives in this master's program. You really do get this luxury, really, of defining the flavor of your master's degree and the outcome. Certainly, you have required courses that give you the foundation, but in the end, that's the goal.
We have another great question in the chat here. And Dr. Bonfield, this one will also be for you. Is there anything you encountered when pursuing your own goals in the field that you didn't expect? Did that newfound knowledge alter the trajectory of your career?
Yes, I would say so. I think the newfound knowledge, so I've been very fortunate to develop, products in my lab. I'm a basic scientist, and been able to take it into patients. And that process is very complicated, actually. You think as a scientist, you got all the answers, but I really didn't. And so what I found was this huge area in which I just didn't have the knowledge or the direction to know how to move forward. I was lucky to be here at Case Western Reserve and to have mentors like Dean Gerson, other people here that Dr. Arnold Kaplan, who recently passed away. These people are my giants, really, that showed me sort of different ways to think about the science. And I needed those pieces in order to help me drive my innovations forward. And so that it's not just staying in my lab, it's actually getting to people or to companies or whatever, and it can actually go somewhere and do something. And I think that's the piece. You have to be a lifelong learner and have an open mind to realize, some of the things that are standing there that you really need to inform yourself with.
Great question. Keep them coming. You are welcome. Someone just said, very insightful, Dr. Bonfield.
You're a lifelong learner for life. That's redundant, but it's a fact. Lifelong for life.
All right. Seems like we may be out of questions. So again, thank you for joining us this afternoon. This was great. We love when there's a lot of questions. So this was great for Dr. Bonfield and I as well.